Hey, good morning. Happy Tuesday. My name is Jane Northrup, and today I am, for PH Awareness Month, I am going to share Nicole's story. I always get very nervous about this because, one, it's emotional, and two, I usually do it off the cuff, and all I got is some bullet points to keep me on track, and so let's see how this goes. So I'm going to start with the day Nicole was born. So it was a Friday morning, and I woke up earlier than I normally do to get ready for work, and I thought I had peed the bed because it was all wet. I was all wet. Went in, cleaned up, thought, how lazy am I? So I went ahead and I laid back on the couch and I waited for Rick to get up, and I told him, and he said, call the doctor, because I believe I kept getting wet. So I called the doctor. He told me to go to the ER, which I did. Now, I didn't think anything of it because it was 5 weeks early. Nicole wasn't even due for 5 weeks. So the doctor came into the ER and they did an exam, and it was at that time that my water broke. I was having no pain, no contractions, no nothing, and so they had to induce labor. My hope was that I was going to, I wanted to make it through labor without any pain medication. And so they gave me antibiotics. I believe they gave something for Nicole to make sure she was okay. And so the inducement started, and by the time I was like, just give me an epidural, it was too late. I was too far dilated. So I did have her natural. So she was born. They took her away like normal. She was small. She was 4'13", and I think I tried to get her to breastfeed, and she wouldn't. She couldn't figure out how to do that, or she just couldn't do it. So the nurses had to give her sugar water, and I still joke to Nicole that I blame those nurses for giving her sweet tooth. And so because she was 5 weeks early, I did not have a pediatrician. I had not found a pediatrician. So one of the nurses on the maternity floor suggested a certain pediatrician. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, that'll be fine. So he came and saw me and talked to me, and I think Rick was there, and Rick didn't like him. I didn't think nothing of it. Rick doesn't like a lot of people. So I was released from the hospital. We went home. We went on normal. Nicole was sick a lot. I was always taking her to the doctor. And so for the first 4 years of her life, that was our routine. She was sick all the time. And I was home with her, so she wasn't going to daycare or anything like that. And I noticed different things, and I tried to talk to the doctor, and he just discounted me. I didn't know what I was talking about. I was overprotective. I did too much for her. When she didn't start talking at the time that she should have been, hey Sharon, he made comments like, well, she doesn't have to because you do it all for her. And he would make little rude, nasty comments. I just let it go, which I shouldn't have done. Right after Nicole turned 4, I don't know if it was I believe she was sick again. And so I had taken her to see the doctor, and every single time that doctor would walk into the room, Nicole would start screaming. And she did the same thing this time. She started to cry, and she was crying, and I remember he looked at her and he said, "I don't know what you're crying for. There's a lot of kids sicker than you." And that was it for me. You will not talk to my 4-year-old like that. I walked out of that office and I never walked back in again. Found a different doctor, which I'm grateful in hindsight that I did, because during the time she was seeing this pediatrician, you know, she had been tested. He requested that she be tested by the county because she wasn't meeting milestones, and they said that she lacked in social skills, blah, 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 and that I should put her in daycare, which I did not want to do. But I thought doctors know best. And so I'm like, okay, I'll do it half a day, 3 days a week. Well, she started getting sick more. And by this time, I had found a new pediatrician who I really, really liked. And she got sick. And I had to take her to the ER. She was running 105 fever. And I carried her into the ER. The doctor said it was a Sunday morning. He goes, "I'll meet you at the ER." And he did, and Nicole had double lung bacterial pneumonia. That hospital did not treat pediatrics, so we had to wait. Nicole had to be transported by ambulance to a hospital, to it was the same hospital name, but it was a different location. And she was in the hospital for 5 days. And during that time, the doctor had decided to do some blood work to test for allergies. And that's when we found out that she had severe allergies. So she had a lot of allergies. After that visit, after that hospital stay, she was referred to a pulmonologist, who she saw a pulmonologist probably for about 3 years. In that time, they diagnosed her with asthma, and she started taking asthma medication. She also started seeing an allergist, and we found out what her allergies were, and dust mites was one of them, and the doctor said it was off the chart. And so as she got a little bit older, she started doing allergy shots for that. After about 3 years, the pulmonologist basically kicked her over to the allergist, said the allergist can take care of her asthma, he can take care of her allergies, I don't really need to see her anymore. So time went on, she still was getting sick. I kept questioning, why is she getting sick all the time? The doctors kept saying they had no answer except that there was nothing wrong with her, and it was either her asthma wasn't being controlled, or her allergies, or she had to increase her stamina. I believe if she had been overweight in any way, they would have said that that was a reason why. Started noticing things like shortness of breath. She started having shortness of breath. She would turn blue, especially if she was in the pool, things like that. When she turned 15 years old, things were getting pretty bad. She could not ride, hey Alexandria, she could not ride a bicycle for 2 blocks without stopping, because she could not breathe and she was short of breath. And it was at that point I said, somebody is going to tell me what is wrong with her. I had the doctor that had admitted her into the hospital when she was 4 had left the practice shortly after that. we stayed at that practice, but most of the time Nicole saw a nurse practitioner and not a doctor. I had saw that he had come back to the practice, and I'm like, okay, this is who I'm going to go see. So I scheduled an appointment with him. I had to wait a month. We had to wait a month to get in to see him, but I knew that he would take what I said seriously. So I remember it was Thursday, and I told him what was going on, her symptoms, her shortness of breath, her fingernails were purple, and so he basically put a pulse ox on her finger. That's the little thing that they put on your finger. It measures the amount of oxygen in your blood. And he thought that it was broken, and he had told his nurse to go get another one because it was reading in the 80s. I don't remember. I think it was 82, 84, something like that. And so he told his nurse it was broken and to go get another one. Well, she did. Came back, took it again, got the same reading. He decided to put some oxygen on Nicole, and he did that. I don't remember how long they had her wear that oxygen, and then they retested her pulse ox. I don't remember what that pulse ox was, but I remember him saying this isn't good. And so he goes, she needs to see a cardiologist. And he goes, we'll go ahead and set that up for you. It's not an emergency, he said, but we'll get it set up for you. Well, later that afternoon, I got a call from the cardiologist and said we can see her tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. So the next day, it was Friday. It was a Friday, and it was January 22nd, I believe, and in 2010, and Nicole was 15. And so we went to the cardiologist. They did the EKG. He then said, I want an echo done. And they did an echo. The echo took a really long time. And then we went back into the office, and the doctor said to us that her EKG was abnormal. And I said, what do you mean the EKG is abnormal? And he goes, well, I don't remember if he said that first or afterwards, but the diagnosis that day was that Nicole had congenital heart defects. She had one large 2-centimeter VSD, as well as a couple other smaller VSDs and an ASD, all of which she had been born with. Well, right there clicked a lot of things right there. That took care of a lot of issues that she had had her whole life. Also, they said she had Eisenmenger syndrome, which I will talk about during this month. I'm going to try not to cry. She had Eisenmenger syndrome, and with pulmonary hypertension, a patient can have pulmonary hypertension and not have Eisenmengers, but a person who has Eisenmengers will always have pulmonary hypertension because they go hand in hand together. So that day, our diagnoses were congenital heart defects, Eisenmenger syndrome, pulmonary arterial hypertension. The EKG was abnormal. That is what kicked the doctor into doing an echo. And Nicole had had one EKG in her life. And that, maybe in the hospital, she must have had one in the hospital. I'm not sure. But I know that at 6 years old, she had an EKG when she had upper GI. And the cardiologist had said that her EKG was normal. And I told the cardiologist this, and he said, her EKG will never be normal. So there was one mistake made. So that is Nicole's story. So this was the day she was diagnosed, and after that, within 10 days, we had to take her over to Tampa, and she was at St. Joseph's for 48 hours, 36 hours, something like that. She had her initial right heart cath, which I will talk about that when I talk about the testing that they do to diagnose pulmonary hypertension. And that started our journey. She was put on Revatio, which is the same thing as Viagra. And she left Tampa that day. She left Tampa on oxygen, and we were met at home by the oxygen company, and she's been on oxygen ever since. And so that is Nicole's story in a nutshell. And that was 10 years ago. It's going on 11 years. In January, it'll be 11 years since she was diagnosed. So that's Nicole's story. I don't know how long I've been talking, so I don't want to make it any longer than I have to. But please, as I said yesterday, any of my pH videos for pH Awareness Month, please feel free to share if you believe that they can help somebody else. Thank you for those of you who jumped on. I really do appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Make sure you get out there and vote. And until tomorrow, take care and God bless.